From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Brad Turner, in today for Erin O'Toole. Recycled wooden barrels, used steel I-beams, reclaimed railroad ties. These are the kinds of things you can find at Repurposed Materials in Lafayette. The company acquires discarded industrial materials and products and resells them instead of sending them to a landfill. Think reclaimed fire hoses, forklifts, and steel cables. Damon Carson founded the business in 2011 after running 2 trash companies. The Repurposed Materials location in Lafayette is now one of 6 locations across the country where he stores his unusual inventory and then ships it off once he finds the right buyer. It's Earth Week, so we're listening back to my conversation with Damon, recorded in January. He talked with me about how he built the company, which he says diverted 15 million pounds of waste from landfills last year. Damon, you used to run a couple of trash companies. What would you see being dumped into a landfill that made you think about reusing materials instead?
So our trash business in the ski resorts of Vail and Breckenridge was primarily construction trash. It would be brand new, still in the wrapper windows. Maybe they were the wrong color, they were the wrong size. So at the end of the project, there might be 1 or 2 windows left over. It was leftover boxes of tile. Typically on a construction project, they would overorder just to have a little extra. And then when that wasn't used, it would get thrown away. 2x4s, perfectly straight. That's the waste streams we would see every day as we pulled into the landfill, tipped our dumpster back, and the stuff would slide out, and lots of good materials.
Sounds like a lot of missed opportunities being dropped into the landfill you were seeing.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff that was perfectly good, sometimes brand new, lightly used, and it was frustrating knowing that that was just going to get covered up with dirt at the end of the day.
You've talked about how you had a pivotal conversation that led you to resell some discarded billboard signs early on. Tell us about that conversation.
So after we sold the trash business to Waste Management, I owned an unrelated business, and we had a airbrush painter who also worked in the advertising industry. And one day he said, Damon, if you ever get a chance to buy an old advertising billboard vinyl, the billboard vinyls are what we see Budweiser, Chevrolet, Coca-Cola advertised on the highways and the byways. He said, if you ever get one of those used, they make a great drop cloth for painting. I picked up the phone. I called a couple of outdoor advertising companies here in the Denver area. And I think it was, if memory serves me correctly, the second call I made, they had 20 of them for sale. So I drove my pickup to South Denver, made a deal for these 20 billboards. And that was the genesis, the start of this company.
Wow. We're all familiar with the reduce, reuse, recycle mantra. Why is reuse a preferable way to keep stuff out of the landfill?
Because you're not chip, shred, grinding, and melting them, which is recycling. And so it's much less energy. So if a cast off or a discard still has utility, why grind it up? Why melt it?
Right.
Just keep it as is. And with repurposing, we change the function of what it does in life number 2.
It sounds like there's a lot of creative thinking in figuring out how to reuse something and how to put it to use somewhere else. Do you feel like you have a creative job?
For sure, there's creativity. I think the thing we concentrate on is to be repurposable, materials have to be generic, versatile, adaptable, GVA, as we like to say. So if a product is that GVA, then we're willing to take the risk. We're willing to bring it into one of our warehouses, and then we start talking about another acronym, ACE, Attributes, Characteristics, Engineering. What did this material do in life number 1? Was it hollow? Was it magnetic? Was it UV protected? Was it stiff, rigid, flexible?
Wow.
And then we never know if it's going to be the cranberry farmer in Wisconsin, the golf course superintendent in Florida, or the copper miner in Arizona who's going to take those ACEs, those attributes, characteristics, in engineering, and use it for some alternate applications.
You spoke to the Denver Post recently about how you've sold items to Ted Turner, the media mogul, to help his bison herd. What did you sell to him, and how is he using it?
So one of the things that's an absolute great example of repurposing is old street sweeper brushes that we're all familiar with. The street sweepers with the brushes sweep dirt and leaves off of our subdivision streets, our city streets. It's a steel pipe with plastic bristles sticking out all 360 degrees in all directions. And as it spins, the bristles wear down. But most of these just end up landfilling. So Ted Turner's organization, he's one of the largest landowners and the largest bison buffalo owner.
Yeah.
And his ranches will buy these used street sweeper brushes and mount them out in the pastures. So livestock, if you have been around them, they'll look for any tree, any fence post to scratch their itch. And it's obviously harmful when they start wearing on a fence post day after day after day. Pretty soon the fence post breaks, falls over, and then they have a real problem because the fence is down and the buffalo could get out. So these street sweeper brushes mounted out there, that's what they rub on, and it's a absolutely brilliant repurpose. And again, very, very different second life for these old street sweeper brushes.
Street sweeper brushes for bison.
Who knew? Who knew?
A big part of your work is procuring the materials, finding them, getting them in hand. Have you had any great examples of moments where you thought you were about to get your hands on a great product and it fell through?
Just last week, we got a call from a flooring manufacturer from one of the sustainability people, and they had sold 18,000 square feet of flooring to be installed temporarily for 4 days at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. I think it's the largest convention in the world, temporary. So they just taped it to the concrete floor so adhesive was not used. And they said, hey, can you help us keep this out of the landfill? And we said, sure, we can accept that flooring. It's only been walked on for 4 days. Somebody will do their basement with it. I mean, there's lots of applications for flooring. But sadly, we got the news from the flooring company, the rep, the intermediary, that they just decided it was cheaper and easier, in their opinion, to just send this flooring used for exactly 4 days to the landfill. The trade show industry, the convention industry, is probably one of the most wasteful industries there is, but it's heartbreaking. And I hate those stories because we could have absolutely rehomed and kept that 18,000 square feet of flooring out of the landfill. But you know, the landfills in America are cheap, and frankly, they're easy. Just throw it in the dumpster and problem solved.
18,000 square feet used for 4 days. Those numbers sort of tell a story in themselves.
Yeah, it's an excellent example of how wasteful this country is. In a country that is a land of abundance, which is America, it's a throwaway society. I think we all know that. Certainly running a garbage company, I became intimately familiar with that, but we know it, but we kind of all want to turn a blind eye to it because we certainly don't want to go to a landfill and see the day-to-day operations and all the good stuff that's getting buried, but it's the reality.
Damon Carson is the founder of Repurposed Materials in Lafayette. I spoke with him back in January. We'll share some more information on his unusual business in our show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Brad Turner. Thanks for listening.